Hi everyone. Today we're joined in our podcast with Doye, who is going to share with us a little bit about her journey and how she's ended up here, where she's now at Alluvia Financial. So welcome, Jo.
Thanks, Doye. Thanks for having me today.
Pleasure. Jo, can I ask you just to share with our listeners a little bit about your journey from primary school to now being, well, now you're the managing director of a financial organisation.
It's probably not something I thought of so I grew up down in Gippsland with my family. They're both, my parents were both teachers. And then, we moved to Bendigo when I was in grade 3. They moved up here to buy a business. And so I went to White Hills Primary School and then moved across to Creek Street Christian College for my sort of, 7 to 10. There was a bit of a gap there. My parents separated, so I moved across to Maryborough for a year, which was a bit different after, growing up or going to school at a very small school. It was a bit of a culture shock for me. Then came back to Bendigo to go to year 11 and 12 at Bendigo Senior. And so I was sort of following that traditional path, I suppose, doing like maths, chemistry, English. I studied French, and then I think I just needed like a top-up subject and ended up doing accounting. And I actually really enjoyed it. It suited my personality type, where everything had a sort of an answer. It was right or wrong to a point. And also did legal studies, which sparked my interest as well. And so then after year 12, I went down to Melbourne and studied business accounting and business law at Swinburne. And sort of had in my mind, I suppose, that I'd follow that, corporate accounting track, work in a big 5 accounting firm. And so probably, thankfully, part of the reason I chose this degree was it had an industry-based learning year in it. So that was where we went and worked in one of those big accounting firms for a year, sort of in between, I think it was year 3 and 4 of uni. And it was a bit of an eye-opener for me. I suppose growing up, having parents that worked in small business, I quickly realised that the big corporate world wasn't exactly my thing. So I suppose something that, that career path that I thought I was following, I realised, it just wasn't going to be what I wanted to do. I suppose I graduated, finished uni, and then, found myself at a bit of a loss as to what to do next. So I decided to head up to Hamilton Island. My auntie was living up there and working on the island, and I thought I'll just have a year off. I suppose it was like a gap year after uni instead of before, and sort of thinking I'll just clean rooms or do something fun, work in a bar or something. That didn't really turn out. I ended up working as like an office manager role for a small business up there. He was a buggy sort of mechanic because on the island everyone drove around on little golf buggies. This guy had a unique business. He used to repair all the buggies for people that owned beautiful apartments and holiday houses on the island. So he used to service them, make sure they were all ready to go when they came up for their holidays. And the other part of the business was then also picking up guests that they would book into their accommodation. So we used to pick them up at the airport, drive them around the island, give them a tour, and then check them in. So it's sort of a bit of a varied role. There was a fair bit of office administration. And I really enjoyed that. And then I ended up moving across into a role on the island at the real estate agent, and then that didn't last long. And again, it was probably a touch of that corporate world that I headed back into, but realised quite quickly that the smaller business was where I enjoyed spending my time. So then after that, I ended up moving back to Bendigo. And again, a bit of a loss as to what I was going to do. I was living with my sister, and there weren't that many jobs in Bendigo at the time in finance.
Sorry, Jo, would you say that was sort of one of the barriers at the time, that there weren't that many jobs around during?
Yeah, there were. And I think there would have, if I was happy to move to Melbourne and, work in a big corporate accounting firm, or even start working, a smaller, I was looking at working at a smaller firm here in Bendigo, but there sort of weren't jobs in that field either. So it definitely was, a bit of I suppose you don't realise at the time, but it was, a time where I think I, was unemployed effectively for the first time in my life. And so in the end, a job came up at Bendigo Bank, and it was just in their call centre. And again, when you've been to uni and think, okay, well, now I'm going to end up working in a call centre, it was sort of hard to take. But everyone sort of convinced me that it would be a good stepping stone to move into different areas in the bank. And that happened. It was fairly quickly that I moved across into their community bank area. So that was where we used to do so all the community bank branches that Bendigo Bank set up are run by individual boards. So they're effectively their own business in their own right. So I was in an area where we would work out how much sort of share of the income they would get from the bank each month. And that's obviously the money that they would then use to sort of hire the staff in the branch, but also do those community projects in their area to help improve the community that they were running in. And I did really enjoy that. It gave me that touch back into working with small business again. I became a bit of the guru of helping them with their MYOB, so their accounting software. So I had a bit more one-on-one experience with all the boards of the Bendigo Bank community branches. But again, it still just wasn't for me. It was a bit of that corporate mentality that I suppose I always felt a bit challenged by. There was, politics in place that I just, wasn't used to. And so in the end, I kind of got to the end of what I was enjoying at Bendigo Bank. So I quit and quit again with probably no job to go to. But I knew I wasn't happy, and that wasn't where I wanted to be.
What made you then start your own business?
I ended up it started off probably quite small. I started subcontracting to a bookkeeping firm in Bendigo. Because it was the closest thing I sort of felt that was where I could actually go in and help small business understand finance and help them, manage their business and turn generally that passion that they have is why they've started the business, but they maybe don't have the financial understanding of what's required to, make it successful. That was the closest sort of job that I found, and I really enjoyed it. It was, working each day, working with a different business owner, starting to try and understand what was going on. But back then the role was quite sort of manual. Everything was done, via paper. There wasn't, the cloud didn't exist back then. So as much as I enjoyed it, I still felt like I wasn't really being able to do what I wanted in terms of helping them. You sort of get all the work done and it would take so long that then you'd just be sort of rushing out the door. And then, probably, I think it was about 2011, I heard about Xero accounting software, which was an online system. So instead of having to have it installed on someone's computer, you could access it from anywhere. And around that time, I was sort of gifted those clients that I was subcontracting to. The person I was working for wound down their business. And yeah, so I was handed these clients that I had a good relationship with. I built up that trust with them. And so then when I suggested, hey, let's do something different and get into this cloud accounting. So then, because what would happen is, I'd be booked in to go and see them, it might be Monday from 9 till 12. But then if they had a question during the week, in between my visits, there wasn't a lot I could do to help them without getting in the car and driving out. Whereas I saw this cloud program as a perfect opportunity that, for one, I could, just work either at home or in an office, but being able to help more than one client sort of at the same time. Because if they called me, I could easily jump in and access their information and help them out. So it suited my lifestyle. It suited the way I wanted to work. And it was also giving the businesses, better insights into what was happening more quickly. And so then that started slowly, but it was sort of that kick that I needed to just really take it and build it into the business that it is today. So I suppose from starting from 10 clients, working by myself, to now it's built up. We've got nearly 100 clients, and we've got a team of 6 that work out of an office in Bendigo, and some also work remotely, which is one of the benefits of working with cloud software, is you can find skilled people from different areas if they're the right person for the job.
It sounds as though, Jo, you've taken opportunities as they've sort of come along. Were there any people that you met or moments that occurred along the way that inspired you?
Yeah, I think so. When I was younger, so I talked before a little bit about, so my parents moved to Bendigo to start a business. So they bought a motel in Bendigo. And we talk about it a little bit now. It's sort of like they bought a motel at the moment, like today. The economy crashed just after they bought it. Tourism died. And so their business unfortunately failed. They, had to go bankrupt, I think, when I was about in year 7. So that experience for us as kids, seeing our parents, feel like a failure because a business and dream that they set up didn't go to plan. It always probably that I've got a brother and sister, and we always talked about it as, that impact that it had on them personally, and just in a sense a situation that they just did everything they could. They were working ridiculous hours, but the understanding of business wasn't quite there. Unfortunately, economical things affected them as well. But all through my financial sort of education, there wasn't a lot of that. It wasn't sort of, we weren't taught it around ways, I suppose, to help identify when businesses weren't going well. And so I saw an opportunity there that, if we don't know what we don't know, that's when those types of things go wrong. So what happened to us personally, I suppose it's always motivated me to make sure as much as I can help other businesses so they don't have to go through that. So they're not, I remember, my dad couldn't, because he'd had a bankruptcy on his name, he couldn't even get the phone turned on. So as a teenager, that's the only way you talk to your friends after school. And I used to walk to the phone booth and make phone calls from there. So little things like that, I always think if I can help a business owner never have to do that with their family, then it would make my job rewarding and what I'm doing rewarding. So that's probably, that's been the biggest motivator for me. That personal experience. And then, throughout the time, so my brother, funnily enough, so I obviously went off and studied business, but my brother and sister have gone through different careers and ended up running businesses now themselves. So having that in the family has been really good, that different experience. So it gave it gave me the opportunity to talk to another business owner that is really comfortable telling you everything. So then it helped me then understand different things that from a business point of view, what they, what I might think is something simple, but they struggle with because they're not focusing on finances all day, every day like we are. And then as my business was growing, I started going to like some business networking groups. And that was really, I found a few people in there that might have been, they were systems focused. So one of the challenges I had growing a small business is how do you put systems in place so that what I do every day, I can then, set it up so my staff can also do it the same way, and so that the quality of work we're doing is the same sort of all day, or regardless of who's doing the work. I worked with some systems experts, which were really good because they helped me sort of step out the workflow and what we were, what our days looked like. And because it was, when you've done something yourself for so long, it's sometimes hard to actually step away and figure out, well, for one, is it actually even the best way to do it? And then how do we make it sort of repeatable so that our staff can do it as well? I suppose I've just found different people depending on the challenges that I was having at the time. And again, like I remember, early on, I just used to work from home and I'd see my clients and that was about it. But so I really had to, put myself out there in the business world and network a lot more, which isn't always something that I've been overly comfortable with. The people that you meet, it's worthwhile because, we don't know everything, and you can always learn something from someone else.
Yeah, for sure. And Jo, you've mentioned there, a lot of learnings along the way that you've gathered through all those different experiences that you've had and the people that you've met. So just looking back on your time as a Year 6 student, what would you tell yourself now that you know what you do know now?
Yeah, I think probably the biggest thing is you don't have to know what you want to do now. It's, what you think maybe that you're interested in might not turn out, or you might go and do it and it might not be what you wanted. Because I know, I was fairly adamant when I left Year 12 that, I was going to go and work in corporate accounting. Obviously I realised quite quickly I didn't enjoy that, which, meant I didn't have, the same sort of career trajectory that I thought I would. But it really, I feel like there can be a lot of pressure when we're younger to, figure out what you're going to do and pan out what the rest of your life's going to look like. But I think just taking that pressure off and finding things that you enjoy and are passionate about. Even if it's not that traditional career path that, you might have expected you were going to go down, it's worth, the highs and lows that you might come across by not just following a traditional path. The challenges and things are probably what ends up the more exciting and fun parts of your life. That would be my biggest takeaway.
Yeah, and I think you mentioned there earlier about, taking opportunities and listening to people and just, you can hear just from what you've shared today, just how just the passion of when you found accounting and really enjoyed it. And I think that is the message that, that as a Year 6 student, to just keep, following the things that they're enjoying. And, even if they're a little bit different to someone else, it's okay, isn't it? I think you'd agree, Jo.
Yeah, definitely. And the way, the world's changed so much and it's changing every day, but the traditional jobs that, we probably thought we would grow up to be when I was younger, they're different now, there's so many different opportunities that, having a global world and technology and, jobs are pretty much, what you want to make them. It's not that you're just choosing between, a doctor or a nurse or a teacher or those traditional roles. There's a lot of cool jobs out there now that didn't exist 10 years ago.
Thank you, Jo. Look, I've really enjoyed talking with you today and enjoyed listening to your journey and some of the barriers that you've encountered, some of the things that you've learnt along the way, and I'm sure our listeners will have also learnt a lot from what you've shared. So we do appreciate it, and thank you very much, Jo, for spending our time on our podcast today.
That's right. Thanks, Doye. Thanks for having me.